Okay, well, welcome to another pre-season episode of Forever Bristol City podcast. You could call it part two of our season previews. And I'm delighted to be joined, as I described him, as a former player, but now media pundit, Gary Owers. Gary, you're looking in fine fettle. You look like you've had a good summer, mate.
I've enjoyed my summer. It does make me laugh. The last couple of nights I've been described as a pundit. All of a sudden, I always see myself as someone that just watches football, and people keep asking us questions and I keep answering them. So I don't know if I want to be a pundit after the Euros and all the flack they give poor Gareth Southgate, but never mind.
Yeah, well, maybe we talk about that. We didn't do any specials during it, but his results speak for itself, if not the performances. But question I got to ask you, and I'm sure I've asked you this question before when we've done other previews. I mean, eve of season, what are you thinking as the first Saturday with all lunchtime kickoffs in the Championship? The first Saturday approaches. You know, have you always felt? And I'm not talking about City. I'm talking about when you're a player. You know. What's the general feeling amongst your fellow pros at this time?
Well, I always thought it was, other than Christmas Day, it was the most exciting day of the year. I mean, you've been through pre-season. You're pleased to see the back of the pre-season schedule, and you've got through the games, and hopefully you've got yourself fit and available. And then you're just sort of waiting some point in the week, the manager will pick the team. Once you sort of get an inkling that you're in the team, then it's just excitement, really. You know, you just want to get up there. If it's an away, I mean, it's an away game. That's a long journey. The players will be sat on the bus or the plane or however they're getting up there. And
you're going to the game, aren't you, Gary?
I'm going, yeah. Early start, like all the rest of the City fans that are going there. 6 o'clock, I believe that the supporters buses. Get up there and get on with it, to be quite honest. And then you're up and running, and you know that start of the season, you're going to have a game on the Saturday. You're probably going to have another game on the Tuesday, and then the following Saturday. So it's 3 games in a week and plenty of football.
Yeah, so that's good. Well, I have to say, literally within about a couple of hours before we're recording this, which is on Tuesday evening, myself and regular contributor Ian, as well as Patch and Matt Withers of Three Peeps and Pete Hinton of OSIB, we were asked if we'd like to come up to the HPC and have some time with Liam Manning, which we did. He was going to give us an hour, but he wanted to extend it for an hour and 20 minutes. And I have to say, I was very impressed with what he said. It's my first meeting with him on a person-to-person basis. And if we end up performing on the pitch as well as he spoke in front of us, then it should be an exciting season ahead. We were also joined, we spent a further hour with Tom Rawcliffe, who's sort of effectively running the non-football side of things up there. So it was a good hour. And I don't think we've ever had all the 3 major podcast operators in the same room at once. But there we go. Gary, City finished the season, I think it was 1 defeat in the last 8. They did some of their summer business early. Here we are on the eve of the season. How do you rate our transfer business to date? Inward.
Okay, I think good at the top of the pitch. Identified last season, it was pretty clear that they need something different, add some physicality, some pace and some power to the front line. So no complaints there. They've done that. Sinclair Armstrong, who I think is a player that City will develop and improve, hopefully, and obviously Fally Mayelu, and he come on for a short period on Saturday and done okay. I've seen a bit of him on Y Scout, and I quite like his stuff. So good business. Hirakawa, obviously that's a disappointment because he's gone away at the Olympics, got injured, but that happens. Would be nice to have him around, and you know, new faces always give you the crowd a buzz and the players a buzz as well. Max Bird, Josh Stokes come in last season, but we didn't see them. I've been impressed with Max Bird, and it's just, where do we go from here, really? You know, I'm sure we'll get on to it at some point, but the talk around the swap deal for Tommy Conway and yes, Scott Twine as a player that I think would be welcomed by the City fans. But do we really need another centre half? That would be my
Good question. I can't see, since you've brought that up now, when you look at, the fact that, okay, you'd have to question the fitness maybe of Rob Atkinson and Carl Naismith, but what was it? Josh Campbell Slowey came in and looked an adequate backup defender there. And then you look at Viner, Pring, Dickey, McCrory, Tanner.
The Roberts, who played centre half, and it was outstanding at the end of the season. So I don't think,
and Roberts, of course,
that might just be a problem. If you're not a problem, but a selection problem that Liam might not actually want as the season progresses, because I'm listening to people talking about teams and people like Carl Naismith, who was injured. Fair enough, but if he's fit and ready, there's no way that he'll want to sit around the place without playing. So, players do get impatient. They do want to play. Same with Rob Atkinson, he's had a spell out with injury, but if he's fit, he wants to play. And I think we've got enough central defenders or people that can play in central defence. So I'm not sure about that, to be honest.
No, and you said to me, we were talking earlier in the week, actually, you said Ross McCrory, he featured well in some of the pre-season games, playing that advanced attacking role. He's going to be knocking on the manager's door if he's not a regular selection. And after all, he's a player that cost us a couple of £1 million a year ago, isn't it?
Yeah, and also he's just been to major championships, so he'll be mindful of his being selected for his country, for Scotland, and obviously if he's not playing, or if he's not playing, he probably won't get selected. That's how it is at international level. So interesting couple of weeks. We've sort of seen the shape. Looks like it's going to be 4-2-3-1. If you like, it looks like it's going to be a back four, and George Tanner might just get the nod. And again, he's George Tanner is someone that I think's been very, very consistent and has improved as much as anyone over the last couple of seasons.
Yeah, no, that's interesting, the lineup, because we were playing, like if you play, it's all about formations, but 3-5-2, and it can be different formats whether you're attacking or defending. Let's go back to the players that they've brought in and looking at the front two. They're both big lads. One's built like the proverbial brick whatnot, and the other one's sort of quite a lanky sort of player. We're relying on them quite heavily between them to score, I'll say, 15 goals
each.
Yeah, well, I'm not saying each. I mean, I put this.
Did you say 50 or 15?
15. I put a posting on the fans forum today, and I said, to get into the top 6, we probably need to score 60 goals. Yeah. 60 goals, right? And if you said 10 came from the defence, be that set pieces, so that's a whole combination of players. Yeah, we'll be expecting goals from the likes of Rob Dickey and maybe any of the back players. We've got the height back there. 10 from the middle of the park. Yeah, you then left with the offensive part of the team, right, having to score 40. Now, some people I've just got quite a few comments on the forum, and some people say, well, that's no problem. Naki will get, he could get 20. And I looked at Naki's record, and Naki's got over 15 goals once in his playing career, and he's 35 next summer. But you're really expecting one of those strikers to have an Andy Vyman best of career season, aren't you? Just to get, say, 15 of those 40 goals, yes?
I think if we're going to be serious about finishing in the top 6 or even getting close, somebody's got to score 20 goals. It's as simple as that. When you used to bring strikers in, they were the people like you're buying to get you 20 goals. I mean, I was fortunate. I played with Sean Gorter, who scored, loads of goals for Rotherham, and he come to City, and he could score a goal from anywhere, out of nothing, just a natural finisher. They're losing. They're taking goals out of the team. Whatever anybody thinks by not picking Tommy or using him, they're taking goals out of the team. It's as simple as that. He'll get double figures. Everybody knows that. So the lads up front, there's a little bit of pressure. Sinclair's record is 3-60, which is going to have to improve on. Fally, is going to be an unknown quantity because he's coming from a different environment. And so, yeah, that is the crux of the matter. And I've been around people who've been centre forwards, and they will preach to you, if you're not scoring, what you doing? What you doing? Why have you even got a number 9 on your back or a number 10? The top goal scorers will get goals.
Yeah. Would you have felt differently? Because we're both being a little bit sceptical where the goals have come from. Would you have felt differently if City had maybe kept Seb Palmer-Houlden as the big stick up top, and he scored a goal in the Dundee derby at the weekend? I know it was a tap in, but you've seen people miss from that distance. So we'd have kept Seb Palmer-Houlden, and instead of buying those two, we'd have gone out and bought Thomas Asante, who cost £2.5 million.
Yeah, but that I mean, we haven't. We
haven't.
We bought Fally and Sinclair, and the only thing I would add on top of that is you can't have enough good strikers. So why, if they're trying to develop him, fair enough, and he's done well at Newport and he's had a good start at Dundee, but keep him around. And if you've got 4 or 5 strikers that are capable of scoring, then what's wrong with that? And as for the Asante thing, that's this is recruitment, and I heard Liam talking about it last night. It's, you don't just pick someone and think it's going to be a cakewalk and you're going to get them to sign for you. There's other people in the mix, or the clubs, if they're available. You're dealing with agents and negotiating transfer fees, etc. So I think that they've got who they've got. Yeah, that's clear, and that's the way forward.
I mean, but it's hoping rather than we're hoping that one of those.
Shouldn't be hoping. It's like after last season and the way it went and what was said, it's got to be better than hope. They've got to deliver, because where are we going if they don't deliver?
Well, another season of it's our 10th successive season at this level, and another season of mid-table mediocrity. And how long are the fans gonna put up with it? One could say, really, yeah. But I mean,
exactly that.
Yeah, I mean, the fans. Nigel Pearson was not a great fan of loans for 2 reasons. He felt at the time the dressing room, the spirit wasn't right in the dressing room, and the other thing he said was, didn't want to develop other teams' players. But if you go back, our record, everybody would judge a good loan player from a Premier League club based upon Tammy Abraham, which is going back 8 years now, goodness me. But are you surprised they haven't gone in to the loan market in any shape or form thus far? Or do you think that could happen between now and the closing of the window?
It's an option. I think unless you've got a nailed-on sort of season-long loan and you've got a top player, and you can do that early, because clubs, especially Premier League clubs, keep the players back. They've got internationals coming back from the Euros they've had an extended holiday and break, and they use the young lads during pre-season. They go on these overseas sort of tours now and play these big pre-season games. So they keep them back, and you've got to be very, very patient, because if you put all your eggs in one basket and think you're going to get a certain player, there's every chance that you don't get him. But so I think it is an option, but I think that'll be an option that will come late as the window's about to close. But what about this? So what about this? And it's on my mind, and it's just it could happen. It's a scenario that could happen. Possibly it won't. But you get to the end of the window, and Tommy Conway hasn't gone anywhere. What do you do? What do you do? Do you keep him in the building and you don't use him, or do you use him? And that. I think we're never going to see Tommy pull on a Bristol City shirt again. That's just my view, just based on things that have been said all over the place. Yeah, it's looking that
way. We talked about this the other night. If we start the season poorly and we're 3 games in and we haven't scored a goal. It's just madness. But Tommy's not training with the first team squad or anything. I mean, the relationship
and one
is
thing,
irretrievably broken.
I know him, and I've known him since he was 7 or 8, and I need to get this clear in my mind. I haven't heard anybody say, or I haven't seen anything reported that says he doesn't want to play for City. The only thing I've seen or can comprehend is that he's going to let his contract run down.
Yep.
So the pressure is on the club to some degree to obviously make sure they get the best value for him. But I've never, and there's a difference. There's a big difference between saying I want to transfer, I want to leave, and I want to move on when my contract's finished. Because why shouldn't he be ambitious?
Agreed.
And we should have a squad full of ambitious people. Liam was ambitious. Liam was at Oxford one day, and then the next minute he drove down the motorway to City. So you can't knock the lad for being ambitious. And I haven't heard him say that he doesn't want to play in a red shirt again.
Yeah, I don't think anybody said he doesn't want to, because as you've rightly pointed out, he's been frozen out because he wants away. And when he's not on the pitch, right? If he's on the pitch, he can increase his value. I mean, do you think you say you've known him since he was, since you've known he was 7, you probably know his mum and dad, yeah? But, is he...
I know his dad better. I knew his granddad.
You know them all. Is his agent creating a false narrative for Tommy that he's got into his head and he thinks he's as good as Alex Scott and Semenyo, which if he stayed with us another year, he could well be?
I know his agent as well. I wouldn't get involved in that because I do not know. I do not know. At the minute, I'm reading like everybody else what you see in the newspaper or what you see online, and that's what I'm basing it on. But I think if you offered him, it might be down to finances. He might think that he's worth more than what he's being offered. I know he's been made a great offer. I don't know. I think if you offered him the right deal, I still think he would stay. But there you go.
Yeah. No. Well, we move on. We have to move on. Let's look at players that have gone out through the door this summer. There's a lot of experience gone out the door with Andy King, although he wasn't a first team regular, but Matty James and Andy Vyman for that matter. Vyman's fixed up with Blackburn. Surprised Matty James hasn't got fixed up yet. But in the midfield, Max Bird looks a more than adequate replacement for Matty James, and he's about 8 years younger, isn't he? I mean, what's your first impressions of Max Bird?
He's looked great, to be honest. Really like him. Even better that he's left-footed. Well, saying that, the two central midfielders, we had a left footer that played on the right and a right footer that played on the left. So much for adding balance to the team. But sees his passes. I think he's got a picture in his mind, which is good for a midfield player. So he knows where his next pass is going. He plays first time. He can slow it down. He hit a couple of nice diagonals. Got pushed a bit further forward for a little while. I don't think that's going to be his position. But yeah, I think he looks pretty solid, to be honest. I like the look of him so far.
Yeah. Max O'Leary hasn't really been tested in the pre-season friendlies so far. I don't think he's had a save worthy of the name. Are you surprised City haven't gone into the market for an experienced goalkeeper, or what you've seen of Stefan Bajic in some of the friendlies? Has he done enough to be seen as a number 2 unless it's an emergency?
I haven't seen that much of him, to be honest. Max has clearly established himself as trusted number 1. And the only thing I would say is that as far as the club go, they must be happy with that situation, because if they're not, they would have done something about it. So again, that's how it's going to be. Max, I said, he made a mistake at Coventry. After that, he was immaculate for the rest of the season. And, he's got a good few seasons under his belt now. So, he's number 1. And let's see what happens. But I don't think they'll bring anybody in.
No, I don't think they're going to do that now. Most
I just look
definitely.
at some of these comments. Some of them are
Yeah,
like, can we
yeah,
expect his left foot to be as good as Tins? Well, let's wait and
yeah,
see. Not that gutted about Tommy getting fed up with him throwing his arms about on the pitch.
yeah,
He rejected a contract. He didn't negotiate. Get him gone. Listen,
yeah.
it's fair enough. Everyone's got their own view. I'm not. I'm just saying that from you've got to look at it from both sides sometimes. And it'd be a shame if he does leave. He should go with best wishes, I think, because he's been a good servant.
Absolutely, he's been a good servant to the club, and the club have been good to him
Yeah,
because
and if they make money on him, then it's money
yeah,
that they made from developing as a young player.
yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely right. Talking about young players, some of the ones that are coming through. I mentioned Campbell Slowey in defence. I mean, he looks a unit for a youngster. I mean, we're well suited in that area, and I could see if McNally came in, then Campbell Slowey, most definitely, I would think it would make sense to him to go out on loan. But what about some of the other youngsters like Stokes and the winger Nelson? I mean, they've had a bit more than cameos, but what do you think of them? What you've seen from those cameos?
Josh Stokes is interesting. I actually bumped into Tommy Widrington, Aldershot manager, who worked with him last year and who sort of took him from obscurity, and he absolutely raved about him, and said he could have the potential to be a top player. I've only seen him for 10 minutes myself, but he looked like he is a number 10. He's pretty solid and well made.
Yeah, I thought
I
he's
just
quite
think
a jumpy boy, isn't he? Yeah,
he needs time, and it's hard. Them lads want to be at the club they've signed for, and maybe if they could get him out if he's not around it for the first half of the season and get him some league experience, and then see how he goes and bring him back in at Christmas time. Rack1 I've seen against Newport, done well. Come on, sent the
yep,
goal up. Got brilliant pace and a winger, and he played on the left side, which is a bonus. So yeah, there's potential everywhere,
yeah.
really. And again, you've got to be careful about how many senior players you have in that squad, because otherwise everything just gets blocked up for the young lads, and there's no opportunities.
Yeah, I think you used the term the other day when we were talking. It blocks the pathway just a little bit.
Yeah, well, we've heard that used a few times. So it's if that's the culture of the club, then you've got to keep it going,
You
and
just
it's been
described,
productive. It's worked. Let's
yeah,
be honest.
you described Stokes as a 10, this magical number, and he's gone from level 7 right up to level 2 in the football pyramid in the space of 2 years. So, and what I've seen of him, I think he looks half decent, to be honest. But then you've also got, I'll call it the forgotten man of Bristol City, who's scored. He's 22 now. He scored in the under 21s at the weekend, and he didn't play tonight for the under 21, so they're bringing him back in slowly. And we're talking here about Eamon Benarous. Now, he's another one that looked as though he put on some decent muscle, and he
I
only
would
had
think so. He's been in the gym for 2
yeah.
years.
But I mean, if he can overcome this 2 year of injuries, we've got another option at 10, really, haven't we? Because that seems to be the sort of role for him. Yeah.
100%. And again, someone who I've known over the years, and his father, great person, great bloke, and I'd love to see him after what he's been through. I'd love to see him get back in the team. And actually, we haven't really seen him play in his best position, which I think will be a number 10, because Nigel used him sometimes at wing back or in a wide position out the way a little bit. But it would be great for him. It would be a personal triumph, because you've got to have some character to come through that. Back to back knee injuries, long term injuries, and sometimes rehab is a really lonely place. Depending who's alongside you trying to get fit. But when you go in on day one and you think you've got 8 or 9 months ahead of you, and then it happens to you again, I can't imagine how he felt. So I hope he comes through it, Eamon, and he is a talented young man for sure.
Yeah. I mean, what was the longest time you ever had out injured as a player, Gary?
Probably 3 months, but some of that was pre-season. I snapped my arm, both bones in one arm, just pre-season training on the hard ground. That was 3 months, and after that, nothing too serious, thankfully.
I mean,
Bristol City, ironically,
sort of injury.
Bristol City,
Sorry, go on.
I got a foot injury. I ended up in hospital for 2 weeks. I almost lost my foot, but that's another story. And after that, pretty not bad actually.
No, the reason why I asked about the injury thing, because coming out after 2 years, you know, psychologically, you go in for that 50-50 ball. You've got to be mentally strong to get it out of your head that, you know, I'm going to give this you have to be strong enough to give it 100% and not worry about sort of going in half-heartedly.
No, that is it. And, you know, that was part of our sort of rehabilitation. We used to do block tackles against the physio and then block tackles against the wall. And you had to have that confidence and timing and everything to make sure that you got the timing right. Otherwise, you could injure your knee again. But listen, modern day science and physiotherapy and strength and conditioning, they don't take any chances, especially after what he's been through. So I'm sure that he's fit and healthy and ready to go.
Yeah. Still talking about number 10s and the obsession.
Just laughing at that.
You know what I'm going to say next?
Have you seen
the
that?
Infatuation. What's that one? When Gary break a leg.
If you broke your leg, they just put a plaster on it and get on with it. Very good.
Yeah, no, we got a good number watching. Yeah, we got a good number watching this live as we go now. There's about 160 odd people watching it at the moment.
Yeah, I can see all the messages. Unfortunately, I just don't know how to reply. But thank you for sending.
No, you can't. Well, I mean, we can reply. I'm having trouble coordinating my mouth without typing replies on. That's where Ian's usually quite good in doing those. But look, let's get back to the infatuation with Scott Twine. It's getting a bit silly now, isn't it? Really.
I think so. I've got to be honest, and I've got this thing. This is me thing. If he's so popular and he's such a good player, then we probably would have been better when we signed him from Swindon when he was about half an hour down the road. But he's moved on a little bit and developed, obviously. But again, it's like it seems pretty much all or nothing. And I thought he did all right. Scored a great free kick. Excellent set play delivery, and you think, how long are they going to wait for that to happen? And if it's not going to happen, what is the next option? What is Plan B? What is Plan C after that? And yeah, sometimes you have got to be patient. But if he's performing pre-season and Burnley have got a new manager, he's got a blank sheet of paper there, then he could well figure in Burnley's plans.
Yeah. Apparently they've got 46 players up there at the moment. Yeah, so they need to unload, but they're sticking to their guns. I mean, personally, and you know, I was told that we have moved, not recently, but personally, if he was so integral to what the manager wants, then you move that a little bit more. Maybe, I don't know. It's like if you want to buy a house and it's the house you really, 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 really want, and you go closer to that person's asking price. But if that person's asking silly money, I mean, really silly money, you got to move on and get that second choice person. But hopefully that.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing is that if he did come late, he's not a stranger at the club. He was here last season. He knows all the players.
Yeah.
He knows the club and he knows the manager, and that's an added bonus.
Yeah, and if he did come late, and he's had a good pre-season with Burnley. So what you've just said about him knowing the players and knowing the manager, even if he comes on August the 31st or September the 1st, whenever the window shuts, he's going to integrate straight away, isn't he? Yeah, from that perspective. So that's good. Okay, so Hull away. They're a bit of an unknown quantity because they had 5 players on loan last season that have gone back. I think they've made a few acquisitions. I've not done a forensic analysis of their pre-season form or anything like that. So I don't know how they've started. The team that took the field against Willem II on Saturday, Gary, How close do you think that is to what Liam's actual selection will be come 12:30 this coming Saturday lunchtime?
Close, but I don't think it'll be exactly the same. I think there'll be at least one and possibly two changes. I think you're probably looking at the back five, the goalkeeper and the back four. And the reason for that is because Ross McCrory didn't get on the pitch, and neither did Hayden Roberts.
No.
So, to chuck them in sort of without a game for a couple of weeks might not be ideal. And of course, he'll have, he wants to get off to a winning start, but there's a cup game coming quickly where all those that don't feature, I'm sure we'll see feature against Coventry. The two midfielders.
Your midfield pivot is Knight and
Bird.
Knight.
100% because
Knight and Bird.
Joe Williams didn't feature, so probably just a slight problem there. But he is the type of person that once he's fit, he's just signed a new contract, and he hasn't signed a new contract to sit on the bench. He will be desperate to play, so that will be something that Liam will have to manage once he's fit and up to speed. And this is where
it's in front of that 7, Gary, isn't it? That you start to pose questions, and it gets back to the goal scoring threat. It's the offensive part of our game because you've said 2 changes, so you've got 4 more positions. So who started Saturday? What's your 2 that are probably going to start this Saturday?
Well, now we're looking at 4. You could change. You could have any combination. Sam Bell has got great pace and he's still sort of developing tactically, probably physically. But let's not forget he wasn't in the team at the end of last season. And I would play on Saturday. I'd play Mark Sykes on the right, and some people might disagree with that, but that's just how I would. I like him when he's fit and when he's firing. He's creative, and he can nick a goal. And Sam can do the same. Centre forward now, Sinclair Armstrong, I thought was lively in the first half, and then Fally come on and probably put a few sort of thoughts in Liam's head. So there's a decision to be made there.
You could give them a half each, couldn't you? Almost without.
You don't want to start doing that. You want the best player to play who's scoring and in form. Okay. And actually, I would love, and I'm sure it'll happen at some point in a game, maybe if we have to chase, to play them both up front together. But at the minute, it just doesn't. I mean, who would want to play against them two?
Very true.
You know what I mean? They could tear people apart, but you've got to have the right system behind to have a little bit of protection. But there was times last year, Tommy would be up there alone battling against 3 giant centre halves, and City found that tough. So that's
you imagine Tommy alongside either one of those.
Yeah, but like I say, I've spoken about them a lot tonight, but I suppose we have to think that
move on.
We're going to move on for Saturday. So it wouldn't surprise us if Fally starts.
Yeah,
and then on the left, you can have Mehmeti. You could have Sam Bell, and then who do you play as number 10 again?
Who would you give that wide role on the left to? Mehmeti?
It's a toss up, it's away from home, and Mehmeti, we've seen him, we know what he is, right footed, cut inside, or actually play a little bit narrower now and try and get the width from Cam Pring getting past him. I'll go this week, I'll go Mehmeti, but it could be Mehmeti or Bell, and I think Narky Wells started as number 10, and he is the most experienced goal scorer, if you like, or has got the best record up to now. So I would have him in the team. And again, Sinclair, Armstrong / Fally Mayulu. But that's what it's going to come down to. It's something might drop out the blue tomorrow. And lo and behold, by the time we get to Hull, Scott Twine could be in this. Anything like that can happen. So
I mean, if
nothing would
Scott
surprise
Twine, if
us.
Scott Twine is signed, he goes straight into that
Well,
into
I
that role,
said,
doesn't he?
well, I wouldn't. But if he just, I mean, he knows them. He'd have to like make that be a probably cheese someone off no end if they'd played all pre-season and someone turned up 2 days before the start of the season and sort of jumped in ahead of them. But so just listen, this is a big thing I think for Liam this season. He's got a strong squad and he's got players that will want to play. And I'm not saying it's going to be a problem because obviously they'll buy into the fact that it's a squad game. That's a term that we hear used now often. But
Yeah,
believe me, it's a squad game. They'll all buy into it, but they'll all be in themselves. I want to play. I
yeah,
want to play. And knocking on the manager's door. And he's got to pick a team this week. And who knows, by the time
yeah.
he picks the team, and the bus might be late leaving Ashton Gate because there might be a queue a mile long down the corridor of players that are unhappy because they're not playing. And
And
that's a
do
good
you
thing.
think players would be unhappy just on the first game,
Oh
or do you
God, yeah,
think?
that's a game
Yeah,
you want to be in, yeah, because you think in your mind or in my mind, and you've got a
you've worked
squad
your
of
what lots
players.
off for 5 weeks training.
The
You want to?
first, the first game is the best. That's his best team.
Yeah,
That's based on 5 weeks. If you're not in it, you are like thinking, I'm not in it. You are gutted. Believe
yeah.
me, you want to be. It's not like, oh, I'm not playing the first game. There's another 45 to get a game. It's I want to play in the first game, and I want to play as many games as I can after that.
So the players that are going to feel particularly like that, I think one would be Ross McCrory. Yeah,
100%.
100% Ross. How's Cal Naismith going to feel? I mean, he's managed 40 appearances in 2 seasons, only 13 last last season. Yeah, do you think he and
No, he hasn't. He's probably got to be patient.
he'll
I
be
mean, that's
patient?
you can back that off. We can back that off. But I look at Hayden Roberts, Taylor
He's been
Gardner
injured.
Hickman.
Well, Taylor. What about Taylor Gardner Hickman?
Yeah, people for sure, for
He's
sure.
going to feel he left West Brom because he thought, well, they didn't know what his best position was, and then he's going to come here. I mean, would you play? I mean, we've talked now without Twine. Um, you know, Naki plays there, which he sort of did at the weekend. I think you're right when you say about Sykes coming back in, but do you think he'd take a gamble on Stokes, or maybe bring Joe into the middle as an extra midfield and say to Knight or Bird, you can move forward because we've strengthened it in that area?
And no, not this weekend because Joe Williams didn't figure. He wasn't in the squad, so he's probably just got a little niggle or something. So I'd just leave that till he's 100%. But that is something I can see happening at some point. Joe Williams, Max Bird playing together with Jason Knight in front of them, especially if they don't find that person that they're wanting. Jason Knight done quite well there, well, not quite well, very, very well, but
Yeah.
I still don't think it's his best position. And the
No.
young lad's probably just, it's a bit, probably not just ready to start, but, he's got enough to pick from. He's got
Yeah,
enough
and
to
the fact that we've got 9 substitutes and you can use 5 of them, you can even switch formation in mid-game, can't you? You could go to a back three and
yeah,
push
100%.
McCrory, bring McCrory on, push him forward, bring an extra player on in midfield, and what have you. Talking about Jason Knight, what do you think of him as choice as captain? Is it meaningful in football these days compared to your time?
I hope so. I hope so. It always meant a lot to me to be captain and lead the team out, and the responsibility that goes with it, off the pitch as well as on the pitch. And I played for some good captains as well, and always sort of they were always leaders. And if they weren't leaders, they always set a good example. And I think he's a good pick. He's a good player. He's reliable. He does a bit of everything, and I like a captain that plays in the middle of the pitch. So he can get into people, and I think more often than not, it's trying to lead by example. He's one thing. He is exceptional in the air. and
For a
I'm
little
not
bloke.
even going, well, you said that. So, but his timing and his spring, and I watched so many times last season, and he gets on the end of things with his head, and he defends in his own box with his head, and it's unbelievable. And he's got a great all-round game.
Yeah. So a good choice. And the Irish contingent seems to be getting stronger at Ashton Gate, doesn't it? I mean, back in the 70s when City got up to the promised land, there was the lads. It was a very Scottish bit. But if McNally comes and you have McNally to Sykes, and it does seem very strange seeing Sinclair Armstrong, how he is and what he looks like, talking with an Irish accent. But there's a strong contingent there, isn't there? Which is, I guess, that's a good thing, really, isn't it?
No, it's good. And they go away together on international camps, so they keep that bond, and that bond gets stronger. And I'm sure there's a bit of banter in the camp as well. But no, it can only be a good thing, and it's just good. It's good from my point of view to see.
Yeah. Alan Gwinnell's put, if we win on Saturday, why change a winning side for the cup game against Coventry? Because you want to progress in that competition as far as possible, and you want to win games. And then your first home league game of the season, I think we're playing on a Wednesday next week, so we get 24 hours less recovery than the normal Tuesday. Do you think he definitely would change, or just maybe one or two? Because you could do wholesale changes.
100%.
Massive changes.
100%. And the reason is, you've just said, one, it's on a Wednesday. Is it on a Wednesday? Are you sure?
It is. I'm pretty certain. Do you know? I'm pretty certain it's on a Wednesday. I'm going to look on my computer.
You better check now.
Let me just check.
Because I'm doing the game and I think it's on Tuesday.
All right, hang on. VRIS. Here we go. Football fixtures. Here we go. Oh, bloody hell. Well, all right. If it's on, I don't want to lose the connection with us. Yeah. So that's the sort of next dumb thing that I'll do. For some reason, I thought it was on a Wednesday, and I'll stand corrected. Let's
say I still think it's the start of the season.
Yeah.
And he's got a squad, and he'll want to keep them as up to match speed as he can. Yeah. So that's the reason to play them. And I just think he'll want, hopefully we'll get a good result up at home. Hopefully we'll get a win.
Yeah.
And then Millwall at home, first home game of the season, nice and fresh to have a go at them, because that'll be a tough game.
Yeah.
And we probably owe them one after last season.
Yeah.
So, and that's the reason. I think he can't. I just think he will. I think he will use his squad for the cup game.
I mean, it's an interesting conundrum, isn't it? Because as you say, he's got choices now. The bench is going to be strong. I mean, there's going to be limited places for, I'll call it, young fringe players, maybe even some
games on Tuesday. David.
Is it Tuesday? Crikey. I better check the parking space that I booked with Jess Park. No, they're not a sponsor of this podcast, but I do need to check that. Well done, Gary. You've checked that in. Let's assume he changes. Let's assume we get a point at Hull. I mean, we want to win. Yeah, they're not a settled side. You know, I don't know what their preseason form is, but let's say we get a 0-0 draw at Hull on the opening day of the season. Nobody's going to argue about that. And he's played most of the game with. He started the game with Fally Mayulu and bought. I keep calling him Spencer. Paul Binning reminded me it's Sinclair Armstrong, not Spencer. So Mayulu starts. He plays 70 minutes and he brings on Sinclair, Sinks, if we call him Sinks. Finishes 0-0, but Sinks starts the game on Tuesday, and then he grabs 2 goals, and we win, and we're in the second round of the Carabao. Does he keep his place against? Does he start him and then bring Mayulu on with 20 to go at home against Millwall? You know,
of course he does.
Yeah,
of course he does.
Yeah,
it's obvious. You get someone, you get a goal scorer scoring goals. You've got to keep him scoring goals.
Okay.
And confidence, the confidence you get from scoring goals, that's what strikers thrive on.
Yeah. No, I think I mean, both those young strikers, they need the confidence, don't they, to to get those goals. And once they get into the swing of it, who knows? They might turn out and get those 15 goals. Somebody's
I
got to
hope
get
we're
out.
not. I said it last night. We shouldn't. These players have been invested in, and these players have been invested in to try and improve the position and the situation. So, they might be under a little bit of pressure to get goals, because if they don't, what will happen then?
Well,
and it's not. Everyone's like, "Oh, we hope they get 10, or we hope that they've got to."
That's it. I mean, we keep using
that's the pressure.
you
That
use
is,
that word.
if you can't score 10 or 15, like, go and play left back or something.
But if you can't score 10 or 15, two of the front four have got to get into double figures.
They've got to.
One with 10, one with 18. Then we're starting to be in business. But we keep use the word that I used at the start of the podcast: hope.
Yeah, it's like these should be like, guaranteed double figures, centre forwards.
And I keep harping back to that one player who was within our price bracket. But if you look at Thomas Asante, his goal scoring record in the Championship over the last 2 seasons has suggested that he would, the very good chance of him getting into double figures. Whereas with the 2 lads at the moment, we hope that they come good. That's worrying. It is worrying, isn't it, really, at the end of the day? And the difference, I mean, Brian Tinian said, I think he said it at Senior Ed's lunch tail end of last season, or the end of last season, we're 4 wins away. That's what it was last season. 4 wins away from getting 6th, because that's the prime objective, to get 6th. We had the 4th best defence and the 18th worst attack, or it was totally out of balance. Do you think we've done enough to make the difference of 12 extra points, 10 extra points, 12 definitely, 10 maybe, 12 definitely, as you see it?
Hand on heart, I don't know. I don't know, and we're not going to know until the season starts. And it's the same with predictions. We're all optimistic. We all want City to do well, but I know one thing for sure: we look really strong defensively.
Yeah.
Strong back 4, strong back 5, and it's down to the defenders. You've said have got to chip in, and midfielders. But if the centre forwards fire, then we've got a chance of doing better. And if we're a little bit more consistent, and that was if we're 4 wins away from getting in the top 6, and we had that run of, what was it? No wins in 8.
Yes.
And we don't have one of them runs this season, we've got a chance of being in and around it.
We have, because we had that run just before Nigel got fired, and then we had that run after the cup games, didn't we, against West Ham? We had 2 bad runs in there, whereas if you'd have picked up average points in those 2 very bad runs, it might not have been the full 12 that we're looking for, but it certainly would have made a difference. How do you see the division this year? If you look at the clubs that have come up, which were Portsmouth, Oxford, and who's the other team that came up from League One? Portsmouth, Oxford, and Derby. Yeah? I mean, Derby aren't not financial powerhouse. I hear Derby and I think big club, but they've not got any money at all. I mean, do you see them, 2 of those, being in the bottom 6, if not all 3?
Bottom 6, possibly. I think you always look at the team that comes up via the playoffs and wonder how hard it might be for Oxford. Pompey, I think, have got fantastic home support, and I think that might get them through in terms of staying in the division. And obviously, you've got to be careful. So, they've come from League 2 over a period of time. And the last team that done that, and there's 1 or 2 coming through now that watch out for: Wrexham, Chesterfield, Stockport, these teams that might get, make it the Championship. But the last team to do that was Luton. So, don't sort of, it will be tough. Some of the teams at the bottom from last year will improve. QPR, Sheffield Wednesday, 100%. So it's open, and again, Plymouth, new manager, what impact can he have? And
if he
you
does
only
as
want
well
to
as you
find
did,
out.
if he does as well as you did at Birmingham, then that's bye championship for Plymouth.
Well, yeah, but I mean, sometimes you just walk into bad situations,
I know.
and sometimes it goes your
I know.
way. So it is. I mean, there is not a lot of luck, but there certainly is some
And
luck.
the teams that came down, we've talked about Burnley. I mean, they've got they've got a massive number of players, but they've got the benefit of parachute payments. The other team coming down was Luton. Who was the third team? Sheffield United, wasn't it? Yeah, I mean, they're all
I
going to
fancy
finish.
Luton. I really
You fancy
fancy
them to
Luton.
go back, yeah?
I do. Yeah, I've watched them over a couple of years. I don't think they've lost a lot of players. They've probably lost the best player, but they've got a good spirit. The manager's signed a new long-term
Rob Edwards, that is, yeah.
contract, and
Rob
I've
Edwards, yeah.
seen him work, and he's an excellent coach. And I've seen them train up close. I spent a little bit of time with them away in the winter time in a training camp and watched them. And they train harder than any other team I've seen train physically. They're a very physical, strong team, and I don't think they'll be far away. Leeds, anything can happen. Leeds, financially, who knows what's around the corner for them. Burnley will be up there. Then what you're looking at after that?
Sheffield United, Norwich,
Coventry.
Coventry have gone out and signed. If City had signed the two that Coventry have signed, which is Rudoni and Asante, Rudoni was about £4 million, so out of our price range, but probably similar money to what Burnley are asking for, and we're not playing. But Rudoni and Asante, consistent manager in Mark Robbins, they'll anything less than top six, they'll view as a failure, won't they?
Yeah, they will, but they look like they're improving. Obviously, had a good cup run last year. I mean, interesting. The biggest sort of thing that caught my eye this summer was the fact that Eddie Vivas left, who was Mark Robbins' assistant, and they looked like they were a very, very good partnership. And then out the blue, he's left. So obviously made one or two changes behind the scenes and invested in the team. They'll be up there.
What about your old club?
Well, I haven't even mentioned them, but Watford, Sunderland, that just by the size of the club and by nature, you think that nobody's got a divine right to be up there, but you'd think that they'd be up there with a following. I'm not sure that new manager, different coach, different philosophy, and let's see. I mean, I hope they do. Obviously, still very, very fond of them from my time there and being from the northeast. I hope they do. But they haven't even been mentioned, really, have they?
No, not at all. And then Stoke, who seem to splash the cash a bit. I mean, they sold a couple of defenders, I think, and got like 8-figure sums for them. But I mean, look, when you get down to it, as we say, we're hoping City do well, but highly unlikely that we'll go down. But it's looking like another mid-table unless we get lucky, isn't it? Really,
we're getting promoted 10 minutes ago. Now we're just staying up. Come on.
Well,
Start the season. Let's be optimistic.
It
is open. It is open.
It's open.
Anybody, it is. That's all.
And having spent that hour with Liam today, hearing what he said, his philosophy and everything like that, I mean, he impressed me, and I was really impressed with it. And I look back on the 07-08 season, just to do a quick fact check there. And that was before our latest spell, but that's the closest we come to the promised land. And we got into fourth with a miserly 54 goals scored, and we conceded 53. So we had a +1 goal difference. Top scorer was Darren Byfield with 9. And then second goal scorer, and he only joined in the January window, was Dele Adebola with 6. So that was 15. So the rest of the 38 goals were spread amongst quite a few players. I think Marvin Elliott in midfield weighed in with about 8. Michael McKindo got about 6. So it just shows it can be done without without a prolific goal scorer. But We hope. There we go. I'm using that word again. We hope it can be done again. There's 4 games and a cup game, maybe 2 cup games before the transfer window starts. People like to look at things in blocks of 10, but 6 points from the opening 4 games. Gary, Hull away, Millwall home, Cov home, Derby away. That's sort of like a minimum requirement when you look at it, really, isn't it?
It's got to be more. It's got to be more. That, I mean, you could say, okay, if we're going to start counting points, and there's 2 home games, there's your 6 points, hopefully, and you've got to get a result away from home. So, you know, it's if you want to get up there and be up with the early pace setters, flying out the blocks, and not get caught cold and clearly get that first point on the board as quickly as possible. That's really, really important, especially at the start of the season, because if you go 3 or 4 games without getting any points, and that will attract a lot of attention when you're stuck on 0, when clearly later in the season you can sort of be in there, but at least you've got some points on the board. So it's really important that they get off to a good start.
Yeah, and looking at that, I mean, yeah, you'd like them to get. Are they going to get 4 straight wins? Well, they did that under what was it, Dean Holden, his opening season, went out like a rabbit round a Rick Graham track, didn't they?
I used to get. I try not to get sucked in with all that now, because it's all what happens on the day. It's, people say predict this result and what's going, and it's games changed. Like, you could go to Hull and somebody gets sent off in the first minute, or you concede a penalty, or these things change games clearly. So I never sort of say, oh well, we should win that game and we should get a point there, but we are capable of bringing something back from Hull. That is for sure. And then you've got to try and follow that up. Doesn't matter who you're playing. First home game of the season, that is a big game. And that gets everybody up. The players are up for it. The Ashton Gate's absolutely bouncing because the fans are up for it. And they're all going to come down there against Millwall and expect 3 points.
Yeah. And obviously the Coventry game on Tuesday before, I mean, that's going to get people a bit indifferent about that. But what you want an opening week to the season is not to lose at Hull, to progress through the Carabao Cup and win your opening home game. And then you got 3 points and you're in the second round of the Carabao Cup, and it's happy days. Even
brilliant, that's a brilliant start. That's as good a start as you can have.
You've got to be happy with that. Gary, we've almost done the hour. Great to have you on. We've had you on over the last 4 years from time to time, and we enjoyed listening to you on Radio Bristol and Robbins TV as well. Enjoy your trip up to the north. It's not really the northeast.
Well, it is the northeast, but early alarm clock call, like many City fans. Goodness me, 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock start it's going to be, but let's
get up there for that. Get up there for that, and we'll have you on at various points in the season. Not the first international break, but maybe the second international break at the beginning of October. We'll have a quarter-term report. We'll probably have got 10 games in by then, and we can see how it's going. But Gary, great to have you on. We've had a lot of people watching tonight, so that's really good. I'll be uploading this on the various podcast platforms when I've had my tea. And then on Saturday, with the whole game kicking off at 12:30, we'll be doing our whole match review at 5 o'clock on Saturday evening. And then a match review of the Coventry Carabao Cup game. That'll be done on Wednesday morning, because the game is being played Tuesday night. Thanks for reminding me of that, Gary. That's been really great. Everybody who's tuned in, thanks a lot. And we'll be back in front of you again very soon. All the best. Bye.